Welcome to Year of Connection, a year-long journey toward becoming whole self-connected. I'm your host, Pauline Shu. Do you love watching two people make a connection? Few things make me happier than when others find someone with whom they have something in common or feel at home. In this episode, we'll talk about how you can best enable that process of creating opportunity for others to make connections that add value to their lives. I personally really enjoy making connections between two people whom I know, but who don't know each other. It's always a delight to witness, in some way, the process of others making a meaningful connection, especially when the people you're connecting are also close or core connections with you. Along those lines, let's first do a quick review of our core values. Over the past few months, have you noticed any core values that might need tweaking? It's possible that they haven't changed too drastically or haven't changed at all, and can be reassuring to know that your values are strong. However, there's also nothing wrong with those values evolving or maturing over time, and you might need to do a quick touch-up to them. Perhaps you'll change some of the language or fix a few of the thoughts that you have around them, and that's okay. The most important thing is that once you feel as though your core values are well articulated and solid, keep them in mind when you go on to the next step of making connections for others, which is to review your core connections. As usual, the people who are your core connections should be supportive of your core values, perhaps even embody those values themselves. But this time, take a look at your list of those connections in a slightly different way from what you're used to. This time, as you move through the names on that list, focus on identifying people who might not already know one another. Then, take a look at how they intersect with your core values. For those who intersect with you on the same core values, chances are actually pretty high that they know each other already. Our worlds are often smaller than we realize. But what if they don't? Even if they have different personalities, it really might not hurt to introduce them. Shared values, even if you're the one evaluating those values with regard to how they interact with you, might nonetheless form a solid base for a great connection between them. There's also the chance that you might have people who individually get along very well with you, but they have different core values intersecting along yours. And yet they still might benefit from an introduction to one another anyway, even if their level of intersection in your core values isn't as high. They might interact differently with other people than they do with you. But often our core values share common themes, so there's a chance that their fundamental outlook on life and philosophical views will match up. Year of Connection is about whole self-connectedness, but it's also about making quality connections. That's why matching people based on at least your perception of shared core values is important. It strengthens the network of whole self-connected people, which in turn feeds a stronger sense of connection throughout the larger community. So how do you connect two people who don't know each other? First, be sure that whomever you're trying to connect is amenable to meeting someone else. I know that this might seem obvious, but it does happen sometimes when people will think that two others make a great match, but they don't really bother to ask those two people whether it's okay to share phone numbers, email addresses, or so forth. It's not really a great way to make a first impression, and our goal is to create successful, positive connections, not to put people off of both one another or even off of you. Therefore, go ahead and check with both of them first. You can let them know the truth, that you think they have a lot in common, you probably really like both of them, and might even look up to them, and they're wonderful, supportive people who might enjoy chatting with one another. There doesn't have to be a more specific reason why they should meet, but be sure to respect their privacy. If one declines, respect that decision. This all might seem a little simplistic, but it is part of the path to deeper connection. Pausing to consider what we're doing with regard to connection in ourselves and others, and taking deliberate steps to ensure a good experience for everyone involved. This is very similar to what I talked about in my April end of month letter. It's mindfulness in everything that we do. So, let's say that both of your connections think meeting one another is a fabulous idea. Here's where it can get tricky for you. Even the best of us sometimes unconsciously think of our friends as, for lack of a better word, possessions. We might not even recognize that we feel this way at times. But from here forward, it's something to keep in mind so that you can avoid letting that possessiveness take over at any point. In other words, as soon as you make an introduction between two people, step back and let them do their thing completely without you. At this stage, once the two people you're connecting have made contact, it is and should be out of your hands. This is a new world for them, a new relationship for them to forge. Your deed of connecting them is done. And that is actually what is so great about it. You've helped to start a connection that is so strong that it can exist independently outside of you. It can be hard sometimes to let go, especially if the two people you connect end up getting along so well that they end up spending more time with one another than with you. It does happen, but in the end, that's okay. If you're concerned that they're off gossiping about you, they probably weren't the right choices to have put on your list of core connections to begin with. But chances are, if they are on your list of core connections, they're saying great things about you, if they're talking about you at all. Connection is a gift for all of us. When people come together to build community, it shows one of the strengths of humanity, which is something we all need. Because of that, one of the greatest gifts you can give to others is creating opportunities for connection. Thank you for listening today. If you've enjoyed listening to this episode or any other Year of Connection episode, please consider leaving a rating on iTunes or any other app you're listening on. I would very much appreciate it. I'll see you next week. In the meantime, I wish you safe travels.